Jason La Canfora had an article today that, if the Packers value what Jason La Canfora thinks or says, then and I don't know that they do, they might.
Yeah.
Then the Packers should be sweating a little bit here because it's in large contrast to what has been, positioned since Rodgers got dumped from the NFC Championship game, and obviously LaFleur going for the 3, eschewing the 6, and then the 2, and then blah, blah, blah. And Rodgers loses to Tom Brady, and he's now 1-4 in the NFC Championship game. He's lost 4 straight. He's 37. Even though he's going to win the MVP, they just drafted his replacement, blah, blah, blah. It goes on and on. And he was very candid, very honest, although in the eyes of some, including Jason, very orchestrated in what he said. And he's jumped on a few times with McAfee, his buddy, and he's basically tried to throw some water on those flames. But, Jason opens up a dialogue that's interesting in the sense that, he believes based on interactions that, now I'm talking about that Jason's had with a coach around the NFL, an assistant GM, that he chronicles in this very good piece on CBSSports.com, that basically the Packers have never really won over Aaron Rodgers' affection.
Yeah.
Interesting point to lean on.
It is, and we remember this from a couple years ago with Mike McCarthy, and even a couple years before Mike McCarthy's exit with the shuffling of not coordinators really. It's like who's calling the plays. It was getting dicey, and you could feel it when you listen to Aaron Rodgers' press conferences. He was always positive, because I don't think he's not a team arsonist or anything like that. But you could tell there was like some passive and aggressiveness underneath the things that he was saying. And so when you get a new coach and Matt LaFleur, and then you go 13-3, and you're like, man, we're Super Bowl viable right now. Like, we have a good run game, we have a good old line, we've gotten better in free agency and defense. Man, we can be good. And then right after that, you draft a quarterback to replace him? It's like, dude, what in the hell are you thinking, Green Bay Packers? But this is just history repeating themselves, because you know how they mismanaged or identified Brett Favre's desire to exit. Now, a lot of this was on Favre because he was talking about retirement, so they drafted Aaron Rodgers in 2005, but he didn't start until 2008. So he sat for 3 seasons, and it almost felt at the end like they were pushing him out. And it's like the Packers didn't learn anything from that, and they're repeating it. Like, you draft a replacement, eventually you got to push out the starter, even if he's got game left. And Brett Favre certainly had game left. What made this interesting for me, as I read Jason's JLC's article, Jason La Canfora's article, BT, is that the NFL is a copycat league. We know this is a cliche that you always hear, but it's also vicious. Like, if a team senses blood in the water somewhere, they are attacking, man. And so right now there are probably a lot of head coaches, and it's certainly the one that JLC was talking to, who he didn't identify in specific, who will do anything that they can to go snag Aaron Rodgers. And so while yesterday we positioned this as, he's not going nowhere, he just wants more money, which probably is still the case, there is a belief that he can be had. And if that's real, then teams are going to definitely come after Aaron Rodgers, because they've seen what happens when you transition a star from one team to another if it's a better environment. Tom Brady's in the Super Bowl.
With Tom Brady. And a few others with, lesser extent, Tannehill and a few others. Fitzpatrick has jumped around. Let me read this to you, because the way Jason frames this, basically the first paragraph of the piece, he wrote it, and then, or he wrote something on social media, I guess Jason did, and then within minutes of that, his phone rang. Jason's phone rang, and it was from an area code he didn't recognize. Picked it up. It was a
By the way, why would you answer a phone if you didn't know it?
I never do.
I never ever do. Now, I guess he's an insider. He kind of has to just take the shot. But you know how much nonsense you get when you answer calls that you have no idea who it is?
I never answer my phone.
I never do either.
If my wife calls me, I answer it.
Yep.
If my son calls me on his little phone, I'll answer it because I want to hear his voice. Kinsey doesn't have her watch yet, but I'll do that. If my mom or dad calls, I'll pick it up.
Yep.
If our agent calls, there's a chance to make more money. You bet you believe I'm picking it up then.
No doubt.
And that's pretty much it.
I mean,
or if I have a tea time, but it's one of my buddies and it's in the neighborhood of when we're playing, and I think that maybe he got derailed. That's it. I ain't picking up. And listen, I mean, if Chernoff calls or but the phone rings 10 times a day.
Yeah.
I pick it up maybe half of one on the average.
And mine go to message and it says, "Sorry, I couldn't answer my phone. Text me instead. I'm more likely to get back to you."
I know. I've actually heard that. You don't even pick it up with me. I know the message what you're talking about. All right, so, but I don't even call you much. I text you. I hate talking on the phone.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan. Unless I have to, I'm not a big fan of it.
You know what I used to enjoy talking on the phone? When I used to dip. Like when I was younger in college, I'd put a fat dip in.
You're like faded a little bit.
Yeah, well, I just kind of chill. Back then, like you talk to your girlfriend for 2 hours, like when you're 17, 18 years old.
It's a great point.
Right? I mean, you would. Got to lay the foundation, right? All right, so here's the quote, Tiki, from the head coach.
Go ahead.
Unidentified head coach. Quote, everything you said is true. All right. But trust me, we want in on this thing. It's never really been good between him and the coach. It's been a long feeling out process, and it looks like it's over. Aaron knows exactly what he's saying and exactly what he is doing. End quote from the head coach. One of 32 head coaches in the NFL. I don't know who, but it's one of them. Now, do I think that Rodgers is playing for the Packers week 1? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do I think that this story is interesting? I do. I find it interesting to have that kind of attachment, quotes, and you're just protecting the coach, but you're obviously Jason's well-sourced. That's pretty poignant stuff right there.
It just means that someone's going to come after him. And so now it puts the Packers in an odd spot because they now know that, one, they're going to field calls for Aaron Rodgers.
They should have known that anyway, though.
Yes.
They should have known that anyway.
True. So they're going to field calls for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Which think about that. You're fielding calls for the guy who just won the MVP, and they have to think about it. You know what I mean? So it's not like they have to think about this. They have to say, will this position us to get Super Bowl viable without Aaron Rodgers in 2 years? Right? They have to. They can't just ignore these calls. And,
I agree.
If you're Aaron Rodgers, you're in win-win. There's no loss here for Aaron Rodgers because either he's going to get dealt to some place where he feels more desired, or he's about to get broke off on a contract extension.
More cheese.
It's just going to make him feel better. Right?
Scratch.
So, at the end of the day, if you get a couple extra hundred, whatever, probably it's going to be
extra $6 or $7 million a year.
Yeah, like so $10 million, $8 million more a year relative to what he's making now. So he's 25. Yeah, so probably like $8 to $10 million more a year. If he gets that, he probably feels okay about being slighted. Like they paid for them. You paid for your mistake in my wallet, so I'm okay with that. So for Aaron, it's win-win. For the Packers, they got to tread lightly. Otherwise, it could be a win or it could be a huge loss.
And let's face it, in terms of bargaining power, he's coming off a great year. I mean, it's like you said, he's going to win the MVP. And there are, I don't know if there's a lot of desperate teams, but there's a handful of teams that view themselves on the short list of contenders and are somebody like Aaron Rodgers away from cutting the gap into, being in second fiddle to maybe playing in the Super Bowl.
Well, think about it. Even if you think you have your guy and you can, and Aaron Rodgers is available, don't you have to make that deal? So if
depends what they're asking for.
So if you're yes, I agree. Obviously, it depends on what you're asking for. But if say apples to apples, comparison, what's being offered per team. But if you're the Rams, aren't you taking Aaron Rodgers 100 times over out of 100 over Jared Goff?
I think it's over. We're going to get into this coming up in Inbounds, Out of Bounds. What Les Snead said on the heels of what Sean McVay said.
Agreed.
It's over for Jared Goff. Exactly. That's the way it seems.
So clearly they would. If you're the Eagles and you can somehow make it work and move wins, but also get Aaron Rodgers, that's a no-brainer.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Or if you're the Cowboys, and instead of paying Dak whatever it is you're going to pay him for, the next 5 years, it only wants a 4-year deal. You're going to pay Aaron Rodgers that for 4 years. I'd take Aaron Rodgers over Dak 100 times over 100.
Can you imagine him with that star on his helmet,
man,
on a Monday night game? Aaron Rodgers on the Cowboys.
I just said that in passing.
With those weapons,
but BT, that's one of the realities.
Yeah.
Like, if there's a team that's going to make that deal, it probably is the Cowboys.
That would
Seriously.
be incredible.
It would be unreal for the
Thanksgiving Day. Aaron Rodgers playing.
So
in Dallas.
I don't know if this is going to like a trade is going to happen. I mean, I'm going to stand by what you and I said from on Monday, and then we reiterated on Tuesday. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going anywhere. But I now know, thanks to JLC, Jason Lacafora, that there are teams that are going to come after him. Before, I didn't think there were teams that would that were actively thinking about it. Like, wait, we can get Aaron Rodgers? I didn't think that was real. Now you know it's real. then there's movement that's certainly going to be being talked about, at least behind the scenes, if not in front of the scenes, relatively soon.
Well, I thought that there would be a few teams that would certainly do their due diligence and kick the tires with Rodgers. What I walk away from the piece here is that, the urgency has been ratcheted up, and with urgency, you might get somebody who's willing to give away everything.
Yeah,
and at that I didn't necessarily see where. You make the exploratory call. Hey, you guys, would you ever trade Rodgers? Now he's come on. It's Aaron Rodgers. Click, and you just kind of do your due diligence.
Yeah. Now that call is, I know things are bad.
Yep.
Right.
And I'll give you multiple ones for Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
Conversation keeps going.
Let me make this worth your while.
Yeah.
Right. Don't hang up.
Correct.
Because I'm going to make it worth your while.
Man, and that's why it would have been interesting, at least if there were a few preseason games, if they had any tape on Jordan Love.
Yeah.
Not that that's fully indicative of, because it's very vanilla, very benign base defenses. I get it. When you play in August, I understand that, obviously. But just to see him out there, how he commands the huddle, the leadership, the length of transition to being the CEO of the Packers or any team in the NFL. Is he miles away, or is he a couple of 100 yards away?
Yeah, because you never know. Like I mean, maybe if you followed Texas Tech really well, you knew that Pat Mahomes is that kind of guy. But if you would have told me this as his rookie season, I said, I think he's just got to learn a couple of years, and then he could be great. But I don't know.
We all thought that,
right?
Yeah.
And immediately you're like, all right, no, this kid's got it. Right? As soon as he started that second year, you're like, this kid's got it. I don't suspect that Jordan Love will be that kind of player, but you never know. But it's certainly the Packers have no idea because they haven't seen him play other than in practice, which is it's a quarter of whatever you're going to see in any type of real game, that's preseason included. So yeah, they have a hard decision if they start getting some real movement with Aaron Rodgers' desire or potential desire to leave, because they don't know what they have in Jordan Love, and so they could be 5-11. All of a sudden, after being 13-3,
yeah, for sure,
the last two seasons.
But let me give you a scenario that's probably counter to how most people, including probably me at this point, how we perceive Jordan Love. But I want to at least give us something else to think about, because I don't know that it's really positioned this way, and this might be advantageous at the end of the day for Jordan Love and ultimately the Packers. So. When you have a quarterback, and we've seen guys who didn't play a lot of games in college. Mark Sanchez didn't play a lot of games in college. And he really, when you only play a season or a season and a half, you don't have a ton of starts. Generally, you're raw, and generally you're behind the curve, and it usually catches up to you, and you have an issue, right?
Yep.
Jordan Love was great as a sophomore. Great as a sophomore. Incredible numbers, incredibly rated. He came into his junior year, prominently thought of. And in a lot of ways like Zach Wilson this year, but maybe even more so. Because the build for, even though I think Zach Wilson's better than Justin Fields. Forget about Jordan Love. But I think that Zach Wilson, we certainly knew who he was coming into the year. He exploded during the season.
Yeah.
Going into Jordan Love's third year, he had more pub and more ink than Wilson did going into Wilson's year this year, if that makes sense. You got me?
Yeah.
Okay. So he takes a step back his third year, and we all know well, maybe not we do. The circumstances, 10 of the 11 starters, gone. Coaching staff, gone. And all of a sudden, the fundamentals fell apart. Guys weren't open. He threw a ton of picks. Touchdowns were down. And he went from this great sophomore year, this rising prodigious talent, to I don't really know what we have with this guy. And while you would think conventionally, and rightfully so, that's obviously not the path you want incremental progress rather than a step forward and then a step back. I get it. But in a weird way, could this have hardened him and forced him to deal with adversity earlier that could actually propel him quicker than if it would have just blown through an average conference with great stats? Yeah,
probably. But you never want to spend a season, especially if you're a quarterback, not playing and then having the prospect of the following season. This is the 2021 season, the one that's coming up, of the same thing happening. He's not. If Aaron Rodgers is on this team, he's not seeing the field, and it's not even a question about whether he should or not. The difference, because I just referenced Patrick Mahomes. Once he was drafted and you saw him and they saw him in practice and they saw him, because you heard about this in training camp. He's making ridiculous throws in his elevator.
Who did we have on that said that?
Yeah.
Was it Houston? Who was
Yes.
it? It was Houston.
It was a linebacker.
Yep.
Yeah, Justin Houston.
Yep.
And
A couple of years ago.
Yeah,
said this
exactly.
on our
We were
show.
like, what? Yeah, really? Okay.
He's like, no, Alex is still the quarterback, but this kid
the
is
kid's the man. Like, yeah, Alex is a quarterback, but this kid's the man.
Yep.
And so you saw it. I don't know if we've heard that from Jordan Love. And
We
so
haven't.
in Kansas City, it was okay it was Alex Smith you were replacing. All due respect to Alex Smith. You were replacing Alex Smith. This is different. You're trying to replace a legend in Aaron Rodgers, which is not going to be easy for Jordan Love.
We will follow, and I know Lock and Four will follow as well. Great piece. Certainly recommend you go read it. Jason put up a good story. A lot of good intel that has not been anywhere else. So CBSSports.com. Go check out Jason's article. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell to be notified when we drop fresh content.